Hi and welcome to this part of my modeling a lamp tutorial. If you missed any of the previous parts, you can find links below. But in this part, I'm going to talk about something that you might not have thought about, might find uninteresting or even boring, and that is planning. But when you're working with 3D, planning ahead is super important. You need to figure out how to place your topology and which parts you're going to need. And even though it might take you a little while right now, it's probably going to save you a ton of time later. But enough talking and let's get to it. Alright, so the first thing we need to do is figure out what the basic primitives are that we need to make this lamp. Now it's perfectly symmetrical, so we only need to make half and we can mirror it, which is awesome. You want to reuse as much as possible when you're working with 3D. But if we look at this, we can see that we have basically one cylinder here. Even though it has a lot of shape in the bottom, it's still just a cylinder and it's continuous. And then we have this cylinder that it's just a regular cylinder that happens to be bent. And then this shape might look a bit more complex, but it's just a continuation of the same cylinder, but it happens to be scaled at the bottom. And then we have a sphere. So basically, to make this lamp, we only need two cylinders and one sphere. So the next thing we can look at is how we're going to make this. What we need to think about is that to make these loops, we need 3 loops to make a bend. That is bare minimum, but it depends on what you're making it for. If it's a mobile game, you don't need as much. If it's a full screen PC game, you're probably going to need a bit more. Also depends on how large the object is. So we need to figure out what kind of a poly count we're going for and where we want to place our polys. So in these areas we want to place a few more, whereas in this area we do not need to place any horizontal loops because it's just going to be a waste of polys. We can just bend them in the vertical direction instead. But here we're going to need a few more loops, and that is the same. To create this we need to have 1, 2, 3 loops. And also something to think about is that you do not want 90-degree angles, but you want to kind of just lean it downwards or upwards. It's going to reflect light a bit better. But what might be a bit tricky in this part is just the attachment here. But since this lamp is not going to be animated, we do not need to worry about merging this, but we can just make 2 separate objects and kind of place them inside of each other. And it's going to read well anyway. If it was supposed to be animated, it's a different story, but that is for another tutorial. But now we have an idea of what we need to do, and we know where we need to place our polys. And it's in these bent areas, whereas we do not need to waste any in these straight areas. So now we can actually start working on modeling our lamp. Now I hope you'll enjoy this little tutorial and that the planning was not too boring for you, because it is really important and it can definitely save you a lot of time later, especially if you have a rigged skinned character and ready for animations and you figure out you need to go back and make an adjustment to the initial model. Then you have to redo basically everything down the pipeline from that point on. So planning is key. But if you like this, please subscribe and I hope I'll see you next time. Bye.